So in this episode, I actually use the word imam, which is a word in Islam. So I'm going to try to explain the two ways that you're supposed to see it. One is just a normal human. Imam in Islam just means leader in a mosque, like just a religious, not leader, right? Not like a leader for a community or anything. Just that sort of male who's like a manager at a mosque, okay? They might lead Muslims in prayer like that. They might just handle the office of the mosque, just it's still like a business, right? Whatever you need to do to manage it. Okay, and sheikh means like preacher, pastor, bishop, okay. But there's this supernatural person that they believe will come down very soon that God will choose. They're not a prophet or messenger, which are the only supernatural beings God would usually use to send down. So since they're supernatural, have some abilities that are sort of supernatural, that's why the devil, it was easy for him to accuse them of being a son of God, or God, because they had some abilities. Those abilities are from God, okay? So you're not going to disconnect them from God anyway. But, okay, this person is Mahdi Abdullahi, right? In Islam, that they believe this person will appear. I believe the description they have of him is wrong. So they're going to be surprised when they see who God would ever send down to be their leaders. They don't know. It's just a belief, okay? And it's a long time ago they had humans in way back human history that told you who these people are that are going to come way in the future that even you and I didn't even reach. So it's just a belief, okay? Only God knows. They believe Jesus will return, yeah. The other supernatural creation of God or supernatural human. Okay, so Mahdi Abdullahi, right? A supernatural being. They also call them imam, okay? They think it's a male who's from the Arab people, and they think his name is Mahdi Abdullahi. Okay, but they usually use the word imam, which means leader. When they use imam for this character, it just means leader of the actual world, not just Muslims, okay? So you would agree the word leader, it depends, right, what you mean. Are you a leader for your city? Are you a leader for a country? Are you a leader for yourself? Are you a leader for a job, right? Like just a team lead? Are you a leader for a corporation? Like that. So don't think it just means actual Muslims in a mosque, they're male, that sort of imam. That's not what this means. So that, you get me? It's actually a supernatural human. You get me? It's a supernatural human God chose. Okay, so they have abilities and powers. So their leader, for them, means something else. They're a supernatural leader, while imam, who's a Muslim, okay, just means just a human, regular male. Like if you're a male listening to me, if you become Muslim, you could just become imam tomorrow and just, right, work at the mosque and just help people like that. Okay, that's not what it means when they say imam for Mahdi Abdullahi, okay? This time it means he's actually a leader for God's religion, okay? And a leader for the human race. So they're supernatural, therefore, because you cannot lead God's religion in the human race unless God chose you. So you're supernatural, therefore. God doesn't choose regular humans to be leaders. Humans just can learn and study and be leaders for each other, correct? But, okay, you get the point. Listen to the Healing Guys podcast with Hannah or Marian Abdullahi, which is my real name, on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast. So I'm going to talk about signs at the end of the world, major and minor signs according to Islam, which is my religion, even though I tell you it's corrupted right now because the Quran is corrupted, even though the Bible is also corrupted, but Christians don't want to admit to that book is not a pure version of God's original Torah. Muslims don't want to admit that this Quran is corrupted. Therefore, a lot of these signs that I'm mentioning is according to Islam. So some of them, these signs have already happened and is happening. So that will help you understand then why there's global chaos. I'm going to speak really fast and just mention the sign. I won't explain too much so that at least you can get the knowledge. It's also on just, Google. You can always just Google it. I'm actually getting this from Wikipedia if you just want to see that for yourself too. Very soon, a lot of this information will be taken off the internet because over time, Islamic websites have been getting erased from Google and just overall just online websites. So a lot of this knowledge is actually slowly disappearing. So let's take advantage of it now. So I also mentioned that some of the things that are happening in the world globally, which are the signs of the end of the world, bad things happening, is actually connected to the persecution I go through, even though I'm not a prophet or messenger. That only happened to such types of men that God chose who are supernatural, because of the fact that God is trying to teach me a lot of things, such as the fact that He, through the persecution where demons persecute me, using human beings they're possessing ever since I was born till now, and it's still continuing. Um, and I'm almost 30 now, and basically in that persecution, in the bad behaviors that humans who are possessed are constantly doing to ruin my life, I have learned that the Quran is corrupted. You get me? And other things that God is still teaching me. So that's kind of what the persecution is for, is because I have, divine missions or things God wants me to do in the future. So I'm basically being taught many things, as well as other reasons that God knows that I can't necessarily tell you. Okay, so let's go. Whether you're Muslim or not, obviously this will help you, because this is knowledge and you can connect it to what's happening in the world today. It will give you wisdom. So you don't have to, feel uncomfortable with this. So these are the events that are happening right now, and some that are going to happen soon. A trial or something bad, which is called fitna in Islam, or evil, will enter every Arab household. As you can see, the Middle East is usually struggling a lot with a lot of Of course, Africa's suffering too, which are the two, groups that Islam, really their people took, So the devil is attacking, therefore, the people who are really worshiping the real God, which is the God that Muslims are worshiping, which is the same God that sent down the original Torah. So we're not worshiping a new God or anything. It's just that that prior book, which is the Bible today, is corrupted. So it gives God the false identity of Jesus, which was a prophet, a supernatural, person that God chose. So for that reason, you know what I mean? It's not a new God that we're worshiping. We're just worshiping God Almighty Himself. So because of that, the devil attacks Muslims a lot, So that's why Middle East is suffering a lot, which, just means Arabs, and Africans are also suffering too, because they were Muslim. And he's using the other groups who didn't technically take on Islam, which are the Europeans, a little bit of the Asians, to always spread the false, religion that is close to Islam, which is Christianity, because it's just Islam that's corrupted. So it's so easy to be attracted to this one if you don't at least go to Islam. Okay, so every Arab household, a fitna will enter it, or a trial or difficulty or something bad will enter. Arabs are going to have a lot of conflict, a lot of problems within themselves. But obviously, bad things will happen everywhere, all over the world. So knowledge will be taken away by the death of people who have such knowledge, and ignorance will prevail. So obviously, knowledge is already taken away. The Quran is corrupted, and Muslims think they're all good to go, and they think this is something in the future, when this already happened to them. Their book is corrupted, and their preachers are lying to them, or pastors, which is called Sheikh in Islam. Imam would be more like a leader. So yeah, basically it just means whatever they do have now, right? Whatever little knowledge they have that is still authentic and correct in Islam, because some is corruption and some is false. Some is corruption or false, and some is true. Obviously, there's a large portion of God's true religion, Islam, that's still intact, and some of it has lies, which is the perversions, the sexisms in this religion. Those are the corruptions or the lies the devil put into God's book. So, and man-made books that are called hadith. So whatever they have now, right? Whatever knowledge you say right now Muslims go to their mosques and talk about, right? Is just going to slowly disappear, okay? Because even these humans who are talking, they'll just disappear, okay? And that's obviously good for them, because their religion is corrupted. God is going to send down the truth very soon, which will help the whole human race. A man will pass by the grave of another and wish he was in the latter's place, meaning people will start to wish for death. You might pass by a place, right, like a church maybe, or a grave site, and you would just, because some churches are connected to graves. They have like a place, where they also help with funerals and stuff. And it's saying that the majority of you will actually wish you were dead too, because the world, you're suffering so much. There's so much global chaos, you're just going to want death. That's what it means. Right? So another sign, right, that the world is about to end. These are the minor signs, you know. Major are like really big, horrific things. You don't want to be here when that's happening. Because usually the worst of the human race is here. The most decent ones are dead. You know what I mean? So we call that major signs. These are like the minor. It's like when you and I are alive right now in 2024, a lot of the stuff is going to happen, and some has already happened. So do you agree suicide is on the rise? Like that. That's kind of what this means. So trustworthiness will be lost when authority is given to those who do not deserve it. This obviously has happened all throughout human history, right? Many times. Bad people take your government or other places of leadership. But, you know, it just means it'll get worse. You get me? Always there's a little bit of decency usually. But you know what I mean? Just like the U.S. government, right? These political parties are fighting so much. And even just the basics they gave to the citizens of the country, right? The basics that made this country still livable, right? Because I'm in the U.S. right now. Exactly. It's crumbling because the politicians are just becoming crazier and crazier. And the ones who would sort of be decent to some degree and really followed your rights, right, in this country are being pushed out, you know? Crazy humans will take over more. So it says, people will gather for prayer, which is, they're talking about Islam, but they will not be able to find an imam to lead them. Imam is like that sort of leader in an Islamic mosque, while a sheikh is more of the one who actually studies the religion and teaches it. You know what I mean? Well, imam is not going to necessarily know everything about the religion. He's just going to be more like that. Usually it's male. Because of the sexism, they're not going to have females do much in this religion. So he's just going to be that person that, you know, when you go to the mosque, he's sort of like managing the building. You know what I mean? Others usually work with him. And he leads the prayer. So for that reason, because Muslims pray 5 times a day, this is very rare, obviously. There's a lot of Muslims all over the world. Anyone can lead. You know what I mean? A prayer. You don't have to be a specific type of person. As long as you're a male and a Muslim, you can lead the prayer. And the reason why females don't lead the prayer is because of modesty. If a female stood up and then all these males stand in rows behind her praying after her, is that sort of indecency they don't want. You know, like where they're watching this woman bending up and down and prostrating and they have to see her butt basically. You know, it's just for decency that they wouldn't have a female leading the males in prayer. Because you have to basically face forward as you're praying in rows as males, and a female is way ahead of you, right, leading the prayer. So they connected to, right, not a place of sexism that they don't lead in prayer, but just from a place of the modesty between the two genders. Which, I mean, is technically the same for a male, too. If a male also stood in front of a group of females, they're also looking at his back and butt, too, you know, if he's bending up and down. You get me? But just in this context, they've said that is more decent. Only God knows that. So there's nothing in the Quran that says a woman cannot lead men in prayer. Only God knows that, okay? So when the truth comes down, when God, you know, sends down his supernatural leaders, such as Jesus is believed to also return in Islam, but we believe he's a prophet. So for that reason, that's really when you're going to sort of, right, whatever God's answer to this would be, that's when humans will get it, you know? But right now, that's just what Muslims do. They don't really have a female leading you in prayer, but they can become scholars and study the religion, obviously, because that's just knowledge. But this whole leading in prayer is not really about leadership. It's just about the modesty aspect, you know? They don't want 400 or 500 males staring at one female, you know, right in front of them. They just don't want her to be uncomfortable. So the females would pray after the males, you know, just so they don't keep making them uncomfortable and stuff like that. You get, even the perverts are in both genders. You get the point. So it's for perversion, right, to sort of prevent that perverted male from harassing her, but also for just normal, healthy males, just the decency between them and that female. They just don't want to burden her. So they right, connected to a sort of okay reason, but only God knows, okay, if God actually thinks like that too. If God maybe thinks that doesn't matter, you know what I mean? And that he would say, you know, she can still lead you. You guys you're human, you're not animals, just pray normally. Only God knows how he would respond to that. So commerce and business will increase significantly. Earthquakes will increase. Adultery will become widespread. Okay, so obviously a lot of human beings have been cheating on their spouses, and a lot of their spouses, right, 20, 30, 40 years are married to the spouse, never thinking this human was cheating on them, and they die in old age thinking, right, they had a great marriage. Sadly, that's the sad reality of, I would say, maybe 60, 70% of the human race. I believe they're cheating on their spouses. I don't think humans are that decent, because I already see 90 something percent of the human race, through the persecution God put me in, God has showed me that they're possessed. That means you're evil, okay? You have evil in your heart, okay? Demons don't possess good people. So when a human is decent, right, just a really nice, good person, that doesn't mean good in God's eyes, get it? That's just you just being human. You just behave. Good really means your heart is pure of certain emotions like hatred and envy and sinful things and perversions, and which a lot of humans have. So they're all possessed, okay? And so for that reason, it's easy for them to be pushed to cheat, and hide it behind your back. So it just means that, to a higher level, adultery, you know what I mean? As well as just cheating overall. Some humans are dating. Just cheating is just going to get worse. So alcohol will be used in great quantities. Alcohol usage is going to increase, especially since war is coming. A lot of humans who are non-Muslim because Muslims don't drink alcohol. It's a sin for them. Someone, right, obviously can sin and drink it. It just means it's not acceptable. Your Muslim country is not going to sell it to you. You get me? It's not no one's going to support you. So they would only do it in sneaky ways. So it means alcohol, which therefore would really mean non-Muslim countries. But then, right, a lot of Muslims who live in these non-Muslim countries and maybe their own countries that are getting more sinful, they're going to use alcohol a lot. That's what it would mean. Arabia, okay, so think of the Middle East, will become a land of gardens and rivers. That's weird, okay? Probably it's because of the flooding. Right now, today, April 19, there's actually a flooding happening in Dubai. So there's a lot of flooding, which is natural disasters. God is the only one who can do natural disasters. So we can consider that, right, as punishments or tests as well, or both, okay? You don't necessarily know, right, God's intention behind it, but we can definitely assess it's also punishment because humans are so sinful and so evil. Obviously, you can agree with me on that. So why they'll become like rivers, it could mean the metaphor that everything's going to flood. The buildings will disappear. Then what does it look like, right? It just looks like a river, right? Just things just flowing. Not necessarily a river as in like liquid, like water, but, like what a river sort of implies. There's no land anymore, technically. But it also could mean that, right, it'll actually become a place of gardens and rivers. But I'm sure the flooding is going to cause that. I'm sure all this earthquakes, which both earthquakes and flooding destroys buildings, right? Okay. The Euphrates will completely dry out, revealing a treasure of gold. Again, if you go on this Wikipedia website, just if you ever wanted to, there's a lot of ones that I skipped, which are sexist ones that I'm not going to read, okay? Because that's the corruption in Islam. There's a lot of these signs I'm skipping. They're saying something will happen, usually from a woman, and it's normal behavior. But because the religion is sexist, because it's corrupted, you know what I mean? They consider that a bad thing, okay? So I'm going to mention healthy things that really are a sign that the world is ending, not sexist things, The Euphrates will completely dry out, revealing a treasure of gold, and many will die fighting over it, each one hoping to be the one that gains that. So there's a lot of recent stuff in the news talking about gold, people looking for it. Yeah. Okay, now these are the events that people think are going to happen, but they're not sure. They're fighting or arguing over it, okay? I'm going to list them. The Romans will come to a place called A'maq or Dabiq, and an army of the best people. There's no such thing as best people. Muslims are the worst now. But basically, some human beings will go forth from Medina, okay, so Saudi Arabia, to face them. So there's going to be a war between Muslims. Unless their leaders rule according to the Quran, which, again, the Quran is corrupted. That's bad for Muslims to do that. It's saying that Allah will cause them to fight one another. Allah does not cause you to fight one another. This is what I'm saying. Some of these signs are evil, okay? What they're saying is evil, is unjust, so I'm going to skip it. Muslims only fight out of evil, obviously. You don't blame God for that. Because that type of what I just read for you is trying to force Muslims to follow the Quran, which is corrupted, and it's no longer the original pure book that God sent with the Prophet. So Prophet Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So basically, these are the sexist stuff, the evil stuff that they say to Muslims to force them to follow the corrupted Quran. They say things like, if you don't follow it, God will make you kill each other. What kind of God makes the people who worship him kill each other? See, that's how you know it's corruption, okay? Nonsense. So I should have skipped that one, but I accidentally read it because, I was just reading. I didn't really see. So if you see that, right, just ignore that. The conquest of Constantinople without weapons. So Constantinople, they believe, will be conquered without weapons. So Constantinople is in Istanbul, Turkey. So they're probably talking about Muslims conquering that place, which is weird, but whatever. Again, there's a lot of this stuff that's just confusing until we actually see it. The earth will rapidly vomit gold and silver. So they're saying gold and silver will actually come out of the earth, by God's permission. Because, if it's actually here, it's hidden, right? People don't know where it is. They're saying cruel rulers will come out of Muslims, Muslims already have crazy dictators anyway. Houses, adornments, resembling painted garments. So it means homes will be basically adorned. You know what I mean? Like they're going to be designed with, if you visualize a garment, which is like a cloth or clothing, the way it's painted, that's how houses will start to look. It just means homes will start to have weird designs and paintings and stuff instead of just their natural blank way. So these are the events that they believe will happen, but they don't know when it's going to happen. They don't know how the order will happen. There's going to be widespread wealth and lack of need for charity. That's weird because we're going to have global poverty. So again, this stuff, right, is one of those things where you don't know. They're saying a lot of people will come out, claiming to be a prophet, but they're liars, etc. Killing will become widespread. Appearance of wild animals and inanimate objects will speak to people. That's only God knows that. Okay. Time will pass by more quickly. Okay. And other things that I mentioned in my other healing guides too, the global poverty, the intense battles and fighting, like right now Israel is targeting Iran. It's like that bully that wants to do something hoping you respond. If Iran didn't respond, then they would slow down the war more for us. But, if they're human, if they really get mad and react and they forget the global consequence and they're just like, let's respond, then it leads to other countries joining that. It's like a fight between two people, but it increases into a group. And again, all these humans are evil and they're possessed. So they're just going to do what the demons in their bodies tell them to do. You can't really stop them in that sense, Okay, now they believe this leader, Imam Mahdi, Imam just means leader, sorry. This leader called Mahdi Abdullahi will appear. That's when they think this leader will appear, when all this crazy stuff is happening. And then they believe the Antichrist, which is called Dajjal in Islam, Masih al-Dajjal. This crazy supernatural character who's evil will appear and they'll travel to Jerusalem, okay? You see? It's like where today sort of the problems are between sort of, we would say, Christians, Jews, and Muslims, you know, because Israel is Jews and they're basically always going after Muslims, where they're usually fighting over land, right? Jerusalem. So they're saying this evil character, the Antichrist, will go to Jerusalem. Then they believe Jesus will return and descend down. Jesus will kill the Antichrist. A lot of people will convert to Islam then, because Jesus will show everyone he was a Muslim, a prophet, and not son and not God. Non-Muslim territories will be conquered. Conquered doesn't mean by force. It just means they're going to convert to Islam and they're going to join. They believe there's gonna be this event of the earth sinking. So many places in this earth, there's gonna be huge sinking, which means humans will die, because God will cause a supernatural disaster, or I forgot which one I was reading. Sorry, a natural disaster of sinking. So the first one, sinking of the earth, which could also mean earthquakes and landslides. God could cause that, and then sinking could happen right after that with his power. They believe the first one will happen in the east. The second sinking will happen in the west. The third sinking will happen in the Arabian Peninsula. Then they believe there's going to be an appearance of a huge smoke, there's actually a chapter in the Quran that talks about it. It's called Dukan. So it's called Ad-Dukan. So it means smoke. So the appearance of this large smoke is supernatural, natural disaster as well. So only God can do it. It's going to form a huge black cloud, right, which is the smoke, and that covers the earth. Just so you guys know, the eclipse that happened April 8 was also one of these signs that the world is about to end, and that is the minor signs. The major signs are way in the future, but the April 8 eclipse is not normal. It's a natural disaster. It's just happening in the sky, and it happened in the month of Ramadan. So Muslims already have knowledge that in Ramadan an eclipse would happen, and it happened. You see, it's just that they believe there's going to be 2 eclipses in the month of Ramadan. So it could be another one is coming. It's possible that others are coming, other eclipses, because 2 didn't happen this year. Okay, so when this smoke happens that covers the earth, that's when they believe the Antichrist will appear. I can describe a little bit of their characteristics. Basically, it means he's a false Messiah. He's like acting like he's the Messiah. The Messiah is Jesus, but they believe, this evil, right? This evil character that they believe to have supernatural abilities as sort of like a test or trial from God. He's going to try to deceive or confuse people. So he's the false Messiah. He's going to act like, he's from God, okay? And at some point, he'll act like he's God. So he's going to appear to have great powers, right? He's going to have some power. He's going to have one eye. He's going to have one eye. So he's a male, but he's going to have one eye. He's not human. His right eye is blind. And it's deformed like a grape, Deformed, meaning like it's not normal. It's like ruined or something. It's like destroyed. Although Muslims will not be deceived, right? Because they're believers. A lot of Christians too, probably. If this was true, to some degree, they have some knowledge of the Antichrist in the Bible. They're going to be like, hell no. You know what I mean? So other humans usually would fall under this, deceive. They'll fall into the trap. Basically, he's going to claim to be God, okay? He's going to act like he has the key or sort of like the power to paradise and to hell. He's going to act like he's the one right now. If you don't obey him, he's going to right now throw you in hell. And right now, if you believe, and he'll throw you in paradise, which Christians could easily fall into because they believe when Jesus returns, to some degree, that punishment will fall upon those who don't believe him when we're still in this earth. They don't believe everything's going to end in this world and some sort of, other world, like as Muslims believe, like the judgment day. It's not here, it's going to happen. You get me? The Muslims don't believe we're going to be judged on this earth. We believe God is going to basically destroy this entire creation. Everything you see, whether it's this earth or other planets you believe exist, everything will be destroyed. And then we're all going to, be made to be resurrected from our graves because everyone will die. And then you're going to be judged. But it's not here. You get me? It's some other place, in a supernatural place, that God is doing that judgment. Okay, and no one's going to see God. Only those who go to paradise will see God as their reward. Okay, so you get me? But if Christians believe that some type of punishment before people are put in hell and paradise somewhere else, if they believe, right, in this earth, you could be punished here. Okay, a lot of them will fall into this Antichrist. They might believe he's actually God or Jesus or whatever, because he's going to act like he's going to punish you now. You get me? When no one's going to be punished here. This is an earth God designed only as a place of test. Who's going to be evil? Who's going to be good? When the truth comes to you, who's going to believe and worship the real God, and who's going to say no? Which only comes right if God sends prophets, messengers, because that's how you know when God is calling you. After they're no longer here, unless God sends down supernatural leaders, other than that, which is just one person that Muslims believe that God would ever send in human history who's not a prophet or messenger to still be a leader, which is this character, Mahdi Abdullahi. Okay, so other than that, no one's really going to call you to God who's chosen by him except a prophet or messenger, which none of you have ever seen. God just calls you in other ways. You get me? He just puts it into your heart to look for him, to pray to him. He'll guide you to him. Okay, he doesn't need to send down a human to guide you. So when people just call you, that's when you're going to struggle a little bit because, right, you don't know who's lying. But there you go. You're supposed to ask God. You're supposed to, when people call you to religions, ask him, which is false, my Lord, which is from you. You're supposed to ask him, talk to him. That's how you are protected. That's all my healing guides. I don't tell anyone to become Muslim. I teach you or give you the tools to look for that creator. We all have one God. I just teach you how to ask him for help, to guide you. So he's going to act like he has hell and paradise in his hands. And it says that in reality, his false paradise is actually the hellfire and vice versa, Meaning is the complete opposite of what he's telling them. So they believe this Antichrist will be followed by 70,000 Jews wearing Persian shawls. Usually the Jews would follow him, to be honest with you, because they've always had a pattern of disobeying God. When actual, real, chosen, supernatural leaders, which are prophets and messengers like Jesus, came down, you know what they did, right? They persecuted him. Okay, so those types of evil, because obviously there's good and bad humans, so there's good and bad Jews. The evil ones always seem to be the majority. So, each time prophets were sent to them, sometimes they followed him and they did their thing, and other times they disobeyed and they were destroyed, and other times maybe God didn't punish them, but they basically harassed and abused the prophets, and then they just continued to create their own religion. And they're actually the ones who corrupted the Bible, just so you know. If you're wondering who actually destroyed the original Torah, is actually the Jews. That's why they're controlling Christians every day. They're the ones telling you as a rabbi what your religion is. You guys are just so misguided. So to some degree, that's kind of why Muslims hate them. But we don't hate actual Jews. You get me? When we say hate, we're talking about the bad ones who did evil in past history, and whoever today is like that. You get me? You only are supposed to hate evil humans and not the good ones, obviously. You can't hate a race or ethnicity or anything like that. Your enemy is the devil and not each other. So, he'll obviously have a lot of followers as they believe, but majority will be the Jews because they already don't want to worship God anyway. They already created their own religion while other people are misguided into those false religions. They're just the children of their ancestors. And when I say Jews, I mean the ones who actually know their religion is false, because some of them are obviously just the children too of those ancestors of Jews who knew, right, that they created the Bible and created a false religion. You get me? Whoever's born today is always someone who doesn't know anything. They're ignorant. But usually sort of the older ones, right? Or some of them who maybe could have had that information given to them. Whoever really knows Islam is the correct religion from among the Jews and other religions or humans overall, they're the ones who are really going to like this Antichrist. You get me? Because they don't want religion or God anyway. While the majority of the human race don't actually know the correct God is actually the one that sent down Islam. You get me? They're not following this religion because they don't know. While others who do know, okay, they're going to happily and gladly follow a bad character, correct? If they were to be here like a devil, they'd gladly follow them. This small life, they prefer that over the next life where they're going to be in hell for eternity. That doesn't scare them enough. They're just dumb. Then they believe there's going to be a beast to the earth. So beast will come out of the earth and it'll talk to people. And then this group will come out. This group, actually, there's a story in the Quran talking about them. It was in ancient history. There was this prophet called Dhul-Qarnayn. Basically, there were people that came to him and said, oh, save us from these wicked human beings who abuse us every day, etc. And he built a huge wall for them to basically separate them from those human beings who would always come to, kill them and abuse them, etc. It was like a supernatural type of event, that wall. You'll never find it today in the earth. You can't look for it. You cannot see it. So for that reason, they believe that those humans, right, they believe that group that was abusing them is still alive. They believe they're still stuck in that cycle of constantly trying to break that wall down, and they just cannot. Which is very, right, unique thing. Only God knows, because God just naturally kills the human. You don't live and live and live. Humans just die. So even if that was true, that story, well, that group should have died then. Those males should have died. Okay, so they believe they're going to finally break out of that imprisonment they were put in, that wall that was put, to sort of separate them from everyone else. Everyone else in the civilized world. They believe they're separated from us, us in the sort of civilized world we live in, this earth. They believe some wall was built in a unique supernatural way by God's, power. And somehow they're separated from us. You get me? We can't see them, therefore. They believe they'll come out of it and they're going to run wild. You get me? They're not like a regular human. They're like, I don't want to say animalistic. You get me? It's like human beings who are really violent in a way that is like animalistic. They were just so extreme. So they're going to run wild. That's what it means. Not just run wild, like running around, spreading corruption. No, they're just going to be so animal-like, beast-like, extreme, strange, So if they were real, the violence they would cause is just way too dangerous, because it's not just a regular human killing. It's worse. So they will ravage the earth. That's what they believe. Drink all the water of the lake of Tiberias. Kill, a lot of Muslims. And then now, right, the leader, Mahdi Abdullahi, that God chose, which means a supernatural person who's not a prophet or messenger. So they're very unique. If this human is real, they're like one of the most coolest person ever. Because God does not choose regular human beings to be leaders, okay? He only chooses prophets and messengers. which were always male, also. Just regular human beings, okay, both genders should be leaders for his religion, spreading it. And other areas of society, you could be a leader. Both genders, he believes, should be leaders. He's not sexist. That's the corruption in the Quran. In Christianity and all these other religions, they put the women down because the devil did that. But this is the only character that God himself chose to be a leader too, but they're not a prophet or messenger. You get me? They're different, but they're still supernatural. So they believe, right, this leader, Mahdi Abdullah, and then prophet Jesus. And some Muslim doesn't mean the ones today, is other people like non-Muslims who also converted to Islam. When the truth returns, the truth will return. God will reveal knowledge that will show everyone Islam is the correct religion, and he'll take out the false or corruption in his religion, which are perversions and sexisms and other horrible, unjust things in this religion that obviously you non-Muslims hate about it. Okay, all that stuff, he'll take it out. It'll be the pure religion it should have been. And right, this prophet that you all love, Jesus, will, as Muslims believe, be there to show you this is God's religion and not Christianity, something they created out of him. And he'll show you he's supernatural, but he's a human supernatural. He's a prophet of God, a messenger of God, and not a son of God, and not God himself. And we only have one creator. He's powerful. He doesn't have qualities of his creation of having a son or a spouse or anything like that. He doesn't have carnal qualities. He doesn't sleep or eat or die or anything. He's not in this world with you, so he's not with you, okay? He's above his throne, somewhere else, way above everything. Only he knows where he is and what he's doing. And that's where he's judging and can see and hear everything. So he's a powerful, almighty God for that reason. So it's disrespectful to believe he's a son, a human, he died for you, blah, 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 blah. It's actually disrespectful because he's actually powerful. He doesn't have those qualities. It's better for you to believe in that than thinking it's better to believe he loved you so much he came down for you. Well, then did he not love the people before Jesus? All those other people, he didn't come down and die for them. What about all the other human beings who lived before Jesus' time? No one came down for them. You guys just think, okay? Don't let the stuff you hear just sort of corrupt your heart. Use your mind and think about it. Okay? If something is loving, God would do it for all of us. It's only the time Jesus came till now that you believe he died for these people. That's dumb. What about all the people before him? Okay? If they were humans who were similar to Jesus, like Abraham, Noah, Solomon, John the Baptist, and you don't believe they're sons of God, then you should at least see he's not special. If they were men similar to him in human history, you could probably conclude, therefore, if you use logic, that Islam, what it tells you is right. That he was just a prophet, just like those men. Because if God didn't have those other men who are special to you, right, biblical men, if they didn't exist, and one day in human history, this man called Jesus just came down and just died for you, then maybe you could fall into that trap. Because it's just him, right? Just one man that's special. His story is just different than you and I, just living this world. But if there's other men who are also unique like him, right? Like Adam, the first man God created, and Eve, right? And their offspring is all of us, the human race. You already see other men are unique like Jesus. He can't just be the only one, therefore. And since you don't believe they're all sons of gods, you can't connect that uniqueness to them being sons of gods or gods. But at least you can connect their uniqueness to the fact that maybe they're close to God, they're supernatural, they're chosen by him to lead people. Then it's more logical to believe that Jesus was then also like that he was also chosen to lead you. You get me? Because it's more logical to believe that, because you can already see similarities between him and those men. Okay. But if they were all sons of gods and they'd all die for you, and if you're like, no, they don't have to die for us, only Jesus is enough. But that's not logical. Then he should have come the first time. He should have been the first man created, so he can just die for us right from the beginning. It's not logical. Why would you die for us only when you're literally after mid-human history? The world's about to end soon. Jesus wasn't that far away from our time. Only that generation till the end, he died for you. All those humans way before him, he didn't do anything for them. That's less logical for you to believe. That's weird for you to believe that. It's not logical, therefore, because it doesn't fit. You're gonna die for people. That also implies they're not responsible for the evil they do. Just use your mind, please. I beg you. That's all God wants you to do. Use your mind. Religion is not opposite of other areas of human existence where we use our mind. The devil convinced you that this is the only area you can't use your mind. He wants you to believe you should shut it off only in this situation because that's the only way to believe in lies. Get it? But if you believe religion is just like other subjects, right, like math, that you also have to use your mind. When he lies to you, when books of God say weird stuff, right, not supernatural stuff, right, like a volcano erupts one day, okay, you can believe that. It's a natural disaster, but you can believe that using logic, right? God even taught you science to believe that can happen, right? You can even predict eclipses now. See, you can still use logic to believe in things that are still supernatural. You get me? You can use logic to believe that there's a God out there who's divine. Humans are not divine. They could just be supernatural leaders, but they're not divine. So even logic can get you to believe in a divine. You get me? So you using logic doesn't take away your ability to believe in something sort of difficult, right? Something outside of this physical world, such as the fact that a God can exist. You get me? It actually makes you believe a God has to exist, because how the hell, can a human create all this? How can you and I? We can't do nothing. How did we just come out of nowhere? Well, how is this earth built so perfectly? Why don't we just sink randomly as we walk in a sidewalk? Who's controlling this earth? Who's managing this earth? Who's actually making sure every day the sun comes out and then it descends? Come on. It sets, You have to think. When you think, you can believe in the existence of a God, which you think you cannot believe if you use logic. That's what the devil wants you to think, that God, believing in him is so difficult because you can't see him. He wants you to think you cannot believe in him unless you stop using logic. No, you can actually only believe that there's a God out there if you use logic. God is not going to take away using logic only when it comes to having to believe in him and just want you to just believe in your heart he's out there and then tell you to use logic when it comes to other areas of his religion. He's not going to take that quality from you he told you to have. It's going to apply to other areas. But if you use logic, it protects you from the lies of the devil. Things that are not moral, things that are not fair, things that are not just, like sexism. Logic will save you from believing in that nonsense. You can believe leaders can come down to help you because that's logical. God helps us, right? Okay, so we can believe he'll help us through living beings coming down, right? It could have been an angel or it could have been a human, but they're special. They have some abilities in order to deal with demons who are supernatural. Because you might think, why do they need to be supernatural? Because they're dealing with the devil. You get me? So if you use logic, you can believe that they should be supernatural. I use logic to just convince you. I said, because demons are supernatural. If you humans are not supernatural, okay, then there's no need. God can do what he wants, but there's no need, right? It's not a requirement to use supernatural beings to deal with you guys. That's kind of what you think sometimes. You think if God sends down a prophet or messenger that he's dealing with you, the human race. No, he's dealing with demons. He just spoke to humans a lot. All my people, come here, worship your Lord. I am just a messenger. Don't worship me. He spoke to humans. But then outside of that time, he's talking to human beings. He's actually fighting with the devil. The devil was visiting him many times, harassing him. You get me? So he was creating situations for him. That's what I'm saying. They are fighting with demons. They are casting them out of your body when they're possessing you. So they should have some supernatural quality, some sort of ability to understand the spiritual world, right? So, okay. But they're limited. You see, they're limited because they're not God. I just use logic to explain all that to you. I didn't just make you believe that you should just believe in this. We can talk about it, and I can still keep using logic. You get me? But when you read a scripture like the Bible and Quran and it just says women can't do this, there's no logic. It just putting one group down because it just hates them. You cannot use logic That's when, therefore, it's not from God, okay? So yeah, they believe this crazy group, they're called Gog and Magog. Then, okay, as they're ravaging the earth, killing people, this leader, Mahdi Abdullahi, which is a supernatural leader that will come before Jesus, so that means their time is very near. They could be alive right now, and I do believe if they're alive, then they have to be getting persecuted. It's just that they're going to come to people and actually tell them, they're going to be sent to people and actually lead when God is ready for that to happen. You get me? So that's why you technically don't know about them if they're actually alive. You get me? Because God is hiding them. Okay, and then Prophet Jesus is also here. These two leaders and a group of right human beings who entered the correct Islam they came down with, as well as the Muslims who are already in it, whoever agrees to that, these believers, right, will go to the top of a mountain and they will not fight, okay? This is how you know why people God chooses have to have a little bit of supernatural abilities, because demons use supernatural things to destroy the human race. They use witchcraft, curses, possessing a human body. That's supernatural stuff, right? So whoever God sends to destroy the devil, like a prophet, messenger, a leader like Mahdi Abdullahi, they have to have some supernatural abilities too in order to, help you against that enemy, the devil, and the demons that help him. So for that reason, one of that supernatural quality is just prayer. See, but you, the human, don't know that kind of prayer. You just know general prayer to God. But these people, their prayer, God will teach them a certain way, okay? So they believe, Muslims believe, right, Prophet Jesus and this leader, Mahdi Abdullah, will pray. Literally, that's all they're going to do for the destruction of this group, Gog and Magog. And God Almighty, which his name is Allah, will send disease and worms to wipe them out. You get me? God obviously listens to our prayers, but whoever is closer to him, that prayer is different. You get me? Because he gave this creation power. If they pray to him, it's different, right? I can sit here right now and pray for 20 hours that God just sinks a city I hate. He's probably not going to sink it. You and I know that's not going to happen, right? It doesn't mean he's mean to us. It's just that's not how it works. He might go against his plan for that city like that. You just don't, you get me? You don't have that sort of higher relationship with him. You're just a regular human. But supernatural people, he chose them. You get me? They're pure too in their character. They're not possessed. They're not evil. They can't be corrupted. They're different. So you get me? It's not about arrogance. It's not and I don't want you to ever allow the devil to put envy and hatred in your heart for these people. Don't be jealous. That's the evil. You should love them. They came to help you. They came to save you. Okay? So because therefore, in order to save you, they need to have more power than you. You agree? Because you can't deal with the devil yourself for a reason. You don't have the power. Okay, so whoever comes to save you needs to have power. Don't be jealous of them and be like, God, why don't I have it? Come on. Okay? It's like a hero. The hero is obviously stronger than the regular people in the story. You don't believe everyone in the story should have that power the hero had, because then there's no need for a hero. Okay, so they're like, God is our hero. You get me? But I'm just saying these are like, let's say, like his soldiers, his sort of human supernatural soldiers that he sends to help you. Okay? So basically, they're going to pray for the destruction of this group, and this group, God will wipe them out. You can just read about Gog and Magog in Islam. Humans already believe there's weird things in this world, that we can't see, like due to human history. It's one of those things where it's possible it's true or it's not. So the sun will rise from the west, which is a bad thing. It obviously never does that. That's, when everything's over. A supernatural fire will originate in Yemen. They believe a lot of things will happen in Middle East, but obviously similar supernatural things, right, obviously will happen globally. But these are specific ones they're talking about. Supernatural fire originating in Yemen. This fire will drive the human race to like a certain location, like before the world actually ends. Okay, here are other signs. Oh yeah, so that supernatural fire they're saying basically it's like sort of like the last steps. There's other things too. It's not really giving everything in perfect order. So I'm sorry if this is confusing you. These are like the major signs. The Gog and Magog stuff, the supernatural fire, the smoke that I talked about. All that stuff is really sort of before the trumpet. They believe Muslims an angel will blow a trumpet, and everyone will die, you know? And other times they'll blow the trumpet. It'll go in like certain order. You know what I mean? Everyone's not going to die at once. It'll go in a certain order. I just don't want to explain it. It's too long. And then, right, other ways that only God knows, he'll kill everyone. And at this time, sort of like they say the worst of the human race is alive. But obviously good people have to be alive because they're the ones who are working with, right, these leaders to bring down justice and stuff. So obviously good and evil are alive. It just means sort of like the enemies are like the worst ones of the enemies. You know, they're just the worst criminals you can imagine. Not non-Muslim, right? No, enemy as in like humans who are murdering others. You get me? Committing other heinous crimes. That's who these supernatural leaders are. You get me? Trying to stop and kill, etc. If right, the killing is necessary because they've already committed those crimes, etc. So like that, the worst, that sort of worst type of criminal you can expect is sort of like the majority. And okay, they have to be killed, and okay, then everyone will die and God will actually destroy the earth. You get me? Everything. They believe it will be wrapped up, you know? So they believe, right, in terms of the minor signs, which means it's very soon. This is minor, okay? After Jesus returns, they believe from the fourth sky in it's like the heavens, they believe. He'll kill the Antichrist. Then they believe a major war will happen between the Muslims, including Jews and Christians who believe Jesus is a prophet and Muslim and not divine after his return. So a lot of, right, Christians and Jews and others will actually believe, oh, you're not actually the son of God, or God, you were just a prophet. And they enter Islam that way, right? So this group of Muslims, okay, not just the ones today, who already believe in that. They believe this will be a group, okay? They're going to be led by this leader, Mahdi Abdullahi, and, right, Prophet Jesus. They'll basically fight with the Antichrist. And this other group they're fighting are basically just evil human beings. So, right, and then Jesus will kill the Antichrist, they believe. Basically, they believe Mahdi Abdullahi will come very soon to support the human race, to help them, to give them the truth, because God's religion is corrupted, there's no justice, etc. They believe in Jesus will return. They believe in the Antichrist will appear. You get me? So this leader has to deal with the Antichrist. But that they believe in Jesus will come down to actually support them against that, because Jesus has more power, okay? So Jesus, therefore, is going to sort of take that leadership role now to actually get rid of the Antichrist. You get me? Even though prior to his return, they believe this leader was dealing with the humans today, all the chaos they're doing, all the war, all the way they accuse God of immoralities using their books, whether they're Muslims or Christians. You get me? The leader has to deal with all the stuff today you would say is in your face. Okay, well, but when this sort of more difficult thing appears, right, this supernatural evil character, the Antichrist, then they believe God will send down Jesus to support the leader with the Antichrist. You get me? We don't know if that means that they cannot kill the Antichrist, that they don't have the power to do it. We don't know if they have the power, but that God just wanted Jesus to kill the Antichrist. You get me? Or that they don't, and that's why Jesus has to return, you get me, and help the human race more. Only God knows. These are just beliefs. These ones are harder to believe, but the others are easy to believe. Flooding, earthquakes, fighting, war, that is happening. So they believe a time of great peace and serenity during and after remaining the lifetime of Prophet Jesus, right? So there's going to be some peace for some time. Jesus, they believe, will get married now because, he left this earth without dying. God took him up to save him when they tried to kill him from the cross, etc., as they believe. Right? They believe they killed him and stuff. I told you, God is not going to let you kill his prophets. He just lets the devil persecute him. So humans are not powerful. They cannot persecute supernatural, powerful human beings. It's just that the devil, the demons are possessing them and doing the persecution, doing witchcraft and things you just can't see with your own eyes to have the power to actually get a sword and try to actually, you get me? They don't have the power to do that as demons or humans. Duh, you're human. You're just carnal. How can you persecute a supernatural leader? How can you persecute someone like Jesus? What? No, those are demons who are doing it, who have supernatural powers like witchcraft and things, not the witchcraft humans can learn to do today. No, the other type of witchcraft that you and I cannot see from the spiritual world. The one that allows them to do things you cannot even see today, okay? They have other powers, okay? So it's logical than supernatural versus supernatural. But they're possessing a human body. So it seems like human is persecuting a supernatural. No. Those are demons, okay? Some people believe this Antichrist could actually just be the devil coming in some weird form. You know what I mean? Just some weird form. Because some people believe demons come to you sometimes in human form. Not just possess, but like they, do witchcraft or magic or something and they can actually appear to you like this elderly man. But it's actually not a real human God created. I don't really believe they have that kind of power, but only God knows. So then, right, society will then slowly decay after some time of peace. A gentle wind will take the souls of the believers, those who truly believe in one God after Jesus returns. And there's no one left on the earth saying, La ilaha illallah, which means there's no God but Allah, which is just God Almighty. That's just his name, Allah. Meaning believers are no longer here. Only disbelievers, right? See, I didn't say non-Muslims. I said disbelievers. Meaning they actually know. They actually know Allah is their Lord, but they disbelieve. So they're obviously going to go to hell. While there are people today who are just dying just naturally through death. And they don't actually know who God is. God will judge them fairly. Don't worry about that. So they believe, right, when the first leader, Mahdi Abdullahi, comes, which is very soon, if they're real. Because everything that needs to happen before they appear is happening. Some I've seen with my own eyes when I'm being persecuted. As I told you, something unique that doesn't happen to others. It can only happen to you if you're a prophet, a messenger, or a leader God chose that's supernatural. Okay, I'm not a prophet or messenger. I'm not going to tell you who I am. To some degree, I don't even know who I am. I'm just being taught things and I'm just doing what I'm being guided by God to teach you at a given point. So they believe, right? Sorry, I'm trying to read article. So they believe there's this evil character, right, that this leader, Mahdi Abdullah, has to deal with. Jesus will deal directly with the Antichrist, but they believe before the Antichrist, before Jesus descends down, that this first leader, which is very soon, Mahdi Abdullah, will deal with this character called Sufyani, which is just the evil tyrant who will spread corruption and mischief. He will kill children and rip out the bellies of women. So he's kind of focused on the females. He's going to murder those from the household of the prophet. It just kind of means Saudi Arabia to some degree, because the household of the prophet doesn't exist now. He will rule over Syria. If you guys observe the Middle East, a lot of the tyrant or evil rulers they have, which is the reason why, right, those Arabs who are Muslim don't have good countries anymore is because the humans taking over their leadership, their governments are working for the devil. So they obviously work with other countries, who have obviously political interest to destroy these people, right? Like the U.S. Obviously they hate they hate they hate them. They're gonna work with, what I mean, who you would consider their sort of rivals or enemies, which is outside countries who hate the Middle East, who just hate Islam, etc., which is usually Europeans and an ethnicity of the Europeans, which is Caucasian, which are the human beings who are in this country who like to call themselves white. You're not white. It's just a color. They like to call every ethnicity by their name, right? They'll call you Nigerian, Somali, Chinese, but they're the only ones who say I'm white. What? Because they still continue in the slavery nonsense. Europe and others have sort of left that stuff. They're doing better now. They obviously still have some evil, but this ethnicity, the Caucasian, still will not leave Africans alone. So they still want to use those terminologies, black and white, okay? So they don't like their name because they don't want to be remembered for what they've done, the evil they've done to this race and to the specific Africans they enslaved in this country. Because many ran away, obviously. They want you to think everyone just was dumb and weak and submissive to them. No, a lot ran away, a lot fought back. They did what you expect humans to do. Just some stayed and chose to be submissive to their own to a creation just like themselves. Because you're only supposed to be submissive to God, obviously. And then they just lived, procreated, and created chaos for us. They never left this place. That's what they should have done. All this discrimination and abuse and the way they incarcerate these African Americans, this nonsense wouldn't have happened to them if their ancestors, the small group, just left or fought with them and they died. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to fight. So, so when, right, the U.S. was obsessed with the Middle East because the devil was using them to go after the true people of God, the Muslims, even though they're corrupted. Just understand, demons are doing this stuff, okay? When humans are like this, when they're just killing innocent people, the devil has an agenda. It's not just because that human is bad. You get me? That's how they know who to pick on and who to not pick on, because the devil has an agenda. Okay, so when they were going after the Middle East, right? I was like a teenager when I saw Syria and Lebanon, all those places being destroyed like that. You remember their rulers were evil males, evil presidents, Ruler today means president. Those horrible dictators that killed their own people, and worked with their enemies like the U.S., enemy as in like the bad humans in the government who are trying to obviously kill those innocent people who therefore are their enemies. No one's actually your enemy in terms of a country, right? It's just a country. So then it's logical that this could be true, that some evil false hypocrite Muslim rulers, they're Muslim, but they're evil, therefore they're hypocrites, they're not real Muslims. It's logical that they're going to come from these countries that today we already see that. We already see tyrants, we already see dictators who are Muslim, right? But they're hypocrites, they're not real Muslims, and they're killing their own people. They're working with foreign countries who are destroying, the Muslims. You know what I mean? It's logical, therefore, one of those examples would be Syria, that this evil dictator they believe will come out very soon is going to come from Syria. And this leader, right, which is very soon that they'll appear, because things have happened that show you they're coming. But they believe they're being persecuted now, and running around the world. Again, the persecution is being done by demons. They're just possessing human bodies. It's nothing like violence. This is a strong person. They can't kill them or do anything. Persecution doesn't mean violence. It just means you're pursuing someone, right? You're just following them. You're just kicking them out. You're just pushing them out. You're just bothering them. They can't just live in peace in their own land like that. They're pushing them out. Therefore, the person has to move, right? So they believe this Mahdi, Abdullah, will also go through what the prophets went through, persecution. And then they believe they'll go to Saudi Arabia, you get me, to get away from that. That means they probably were in non-Muslim countries to flee from the persecution. And then they believe some Muslims will recognize them, as the leader that God, they believe, sent for them. And then around that time, right, these evil rulers or presidents in the Middle East, right, or Arabic countries, right, will appear and they'll kill, Muslims, and that's what this leader now needs to do. You get me? Deal with these evil Muslim rulers. So they have to deal with their own people first. You get me? The enemies in that. They're not gonna come to non-Muslims. You get me? That's not logical. Muslims need to first, right, go through their own healing first. There's a lot of evil in them first. You agree? Then they believe when the Mahdi appears, this evil, president from Syria will send an army to try to kill them. Again, God does this stuff. When demons possess an evil human, they don't have the power to kill or harm someone supernatural. Because you, the human, are not supernatural. You're not equal to them. They're stronger than you. And they're stronger than your demons. It's just what God does. Okay, so this is something God does. He gives the devil this kind of power to sort of mimic that. But, okay, that's it. Then they're going to be stopped. Okay, they're not going to actually succeed with touching the person. It's just a test or tribulation for, not tribulation, sorry. It's just a test of faith on the supernatural leader. You get me? They're being tested that way because technically they're not going to struggle with faith. You get me? Because they are very moral, so they're not going to have things like temptation or sin, or they're not going to struggle with the things humans are being tested with, like carnal desires. So for them, right, this is sort of their test, okay? The devil is given more power to persecute them, even though the devil is weaker than them. Okay, so they need to be patient and not get angry, because whoever is acting like they're persecuting them can't even touch them. But God gave them that power. You get me? It's not the typical power they would normally have. So God will make this tyrant, Sufyani, male character. Sufyani just kind of means like tyrant. That's not really their real name. This bad tyrant ruler who's Muslim from Syria will send an army to try to, I just don't like the word kill, because you can't kill, supernatural leaders. That's what the Bible and Quran, they're corrupt. Not Quran, the Islam and Christianity are corrupted to think prophets were killed. They were not. They're going to basically just try to go bother this leader, and they're going to be they're going to be swallowed up by the earth. God will do that natural disaster where he'll make the earth swallow this tyrant and his army. Some people believe, right, this character in this situation is not real. I don't think it's real. I don't think this is going to happen. I just think a leader could appear, help human beings at this time with, right, what you would say religion needs. It needs answers from, God Almighty to tell us what he really taught us. And his books today are not authentic. And humans need to come together and under one religion, under their one creator, that human beings need to come under God's one religion so they can follow and worship their one creator. And then, right, the injustice, the oppression, the suffering, the poverty, that's what the leader would, right, if you think about it, would then fix and get rid of. Okay, and then if Jesus really is going to come down, then he would come down and deal with sort of other things, whatever you would assume he would support human beings with, just such as showing them, right, he's not the Son of God. Or maybe Jesus will not even return. Like, you get me? If there's going to be leaders, they're just going to deal with global problems and the spiritual problems of humans fighting over who God is and religion and morality, and then, yeah, these other things seem sort of way too difficult to believe, and that's because it's possible they're true or not. Basically, I'm just reading some of the sources that says that this sort of Sufyani character seems to be one of the dumbest things, dumbest or theologies or beliefs because of the fact that it's just so illogical. You know, this Mahdi character is supernatural, a very strong creation of God that came to help humanity. So it's just not logical. Some random male president in Syria is gonna be like, let's go. I'm gonna have an army. It's just weird. They're probably gonna freak out and run off as you expect. You know? It's one of those things where they believe it's connected to past human history. Some human beings who obviously don't know, right? Who Mahdi is because they're in the past. They believe they created this character out of their own desire to act dominant over other Arab ethnicities that they hate because they connected him to Syria, you know. It's like they hate each other and they're like, oh, some crazy ruler will come from you guys and someone from us will, you know, it's just so sometimes these stories are made up like that. A lot of the hadith, right, which means narrations, a lot of the stories they tell you in these hadith books that Muslims have, some are called Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Tirmidhi, a lot of them are false, obviously. A lot of Muslims have agreed to that. But then the ones that are still false, which is the ones that promote immoralities of perversion, sexism, and other evil stuff that are unjust for God to be, those are the ones they're going to promote because that's them just following the devil's agenda. Those are evil humans. They're never going to speak the truth because they're hypocrites. But their time is almost here to be stopped, you know? Only God knows how he's going to stop them. Is it going to be a leader? Is it going to be something supernatural? He'll just do as God? Like, we don't know. But I do know that God will fix his religion, Islam, and everyone will see it's the original religion, and women will finally have their rights. God has already showed me that the sexism in this religion and the perversion, this is just nastiness, just perversion, like having 4 females and calling them a wife to yourself. It's just objectification of this gender. He already showed me it's false. So, sort of like what you would say is more of a spiritual evidence. That's what God will send down very soon, inshallah. I'm giving you more of the logical evidence that it's false, but the spiritual, my testimony will help you to see that, because demons persecute me to show me that those things are false. They're being used by God to show me the things they did and put into this religion. And other stuff that, you know, the persecution would not really show you. Okay, God knows how he's going to do that. Just always know my advice to you on my podcast to pray to God Almighty to show you who he is, which God is he. You know, there's so many false stories about who a God is. And to guide you to his true religion, which parts of it are correct and which parts are corrupted. It's that simple. That's your job as a human, not to use books to find God, to talk to him. He's alive. You know, he's the all-living. Islam always puts the word all, A-L-L, anytime you describe a trait or quality of God, right? Like, oh, hearing. We don't just say God is hearing or hears, right? Because that can imply, or does imply either way, a limited form of hearing, right? So we say all hearing. Okay, he hears everything then, right? Okay, so all living. He's never going to die. So since God can never die, Jesus is already something you should kick out of your head, that story about him. Okay, take care of yourself.